being here. Tonight's public safety and transportations meeting. It's February 9th. We're going to start at 6:33. Again, thank you all for coming and participating in this community work that we do. We are going to start. Khalid, let's do, could you read the ground rules, please, Khalid?
You got it. Okay, everyone. Rule number 1, no one may speak until granted the floor. Number 2, CB11 members. If you have a question about board business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand through Zoom. If you click the participants icon, the participants panel should appear and you should find the raise hand function there. If you still have technical difficulty, you may click the chat icon and relay your difficulty to myself. Number 3, the chat function should not be used for CB11 business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties you are having or to state in writing information like an email address that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. Please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane to the discussion. Members of the public, if you have a question or comment about the subjects on the agenda, please raise your hand through Zoom and wait to be recognized. All right, Jose, there you go. Or Michelle.
Thank you so much. So we will call to order. We'll do our roll call.
Okay, give me 1 second, members. Hold up. Okay, everyone. Sage Mason is a new committee member, so him being on board brings this total membership to 11, and 6 are needed for quorum, just for your information. Jose Altamirano.
Present.
Kenneth Crouch.
Present.
Carlos Diaz.
Present.
Judith Ferbraro. Osendi Garcia.
Present.
Thank you. Wanda Hopkins.
Present.
Thank you. Marissa Mack. Sage Mason.
Present, and thank you, Don.
Thank you. Roberto Perez. Don Sanders.
Here.
Thank you. Michelle Wiltshire Clement.
Present.
Thank you. We have
Welcome,
quorum.
Chair.
All right, beautiful.
My-
Let's put our screen back up, Khalid, and
Will do.
all right, so we have to adopt both agendas for December and for tonight. We'll do it by admission. So is anyone against adopting tonight's agenda or December's agenda? And if so, then we will adopt them. And I believe that will put us right into informational updates.
Michelle, you have your hand raised?
Yes, we're adopting the December 2022 minutes
Mhm.
and then the agenda for February for this day.
Right. Right, sorry if I missed. That is correct. We are adopting the December minutes and we are adopting tonight's agenda. All right, so let's get into it because we got a lot of things to talk about tonight. Our informational what do we have? Our announcements. Michelle, could you read that for me, please?
As an announcement, we have the design plans released for the removal of East 128th Street pedestrian bridge over 3rd Avenue Bridge approach and the Capitol Street improvements in the vicinity. So we're going to be looking at that later. Is there another announcement?
This is the only announcement. I just wanted to clarify or at least note to you all that the information was shared in the emails that I've sent you all, and Rafael Escano hopefully is on the call. If you have any questions regarding the designs or anything related to the construction, you can definitely notify him. He might be able to field those. So I just wanted to notify the members. And
It's about a 40-page presentation, and it's pretty intricate, so it might be easier to like really look at it on your computer instead of a phone.
Right.
Right.
And now informational updates, Chair.
All right. So 23rd Precinct, Peter Gibbons, our very own. Come on down.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Don, for the extra energy. I really appreciate that, advocating for me. That's very kind. Thank you, everyone, for having me tonight. It's my pleasure to be here. Officer Peter Gibbons from the 23rd Precinct. Let me begin real quick with last year. I just want to mention that we were trending in the right direction. We did finish the year citywide up 22% in crime. But I just want to note that it was 29% in November and 38% in June. So you can see that those numbers were coming down as we hit the new year. We have started this year just a little bit hot citywide and in the 23rd Precinct, and I'll get into that now. We are up 2.6% in major crimes citywide. Thankfully down in murder, 8.5%, down in rape, 8.5%. But we're up slightly in robbery, 6%. Felony assaults, 12% up. Burglaries just up a touch at 2.7%. Down slightly in grand larcenies, 3%. Up 4.8% in grand larceny of auto citywide. But again, continuing the trend from last year when we finished 17% down in shootings, we're down 27% in shootings citywide so far this year. So that trend thankfully is continuing. Also, citywide transit crime, we're down 26% for the year as our sort of max deployment coverage all throughout the city and throughout the system continues. And that's also a trend that continued from last year as transit crime, while we finished up for the year, was trending down precipitously towards the end of the year. A little more locally in the 23rd Precinct, year to date, we are up 4.2% in major crime when compared to last year. What does that include? Well, we've had 3 murders this year, which is very significant. And of course, I will discuss that versus only 1 last year, year to date. Rapes, we've had 1 a year to date versus 3 last year. Robberies, 15 this year versus 18 last year. Felony assaults, 32 versus 28 last year. Burglaries, 13 this year in the 23rd Precinct versus 11 last year. Grand larcenies, 47 this year to date versus 44 last year. Grand larceny of auto, 12 this year versus 13 last year. So other than murders, nothing in particular really stands out as spiking or decreasing dramatically. Most of the other categories of crime are roughly even or with regards to felony assault, just slightly up. So let me get into them though and talk about what particular crimes we're seeing when it comes to those categories. When it comes to the murders, we've had 3 so far this year, which is obviously tragic and just an ugly number. What were they? On January 4th, the 45-year-old woman was stabbed to death at 432 East 102nd Street in the East River houses. Her ex came to her house, got his way in there somehow, and stabbed her. She was from Wagner, had moved temporarily to East River to get away from this man, but he managed to get in there, and stabbed her to death. He subsequently, what we believe, that he fled the state, and so the investigation and the hunt for this guy continues. On the 13th of January, a 25-year-old man was shot and killed in front of 50 East 102nd Street, which is in the Carver houses. Now, it's a bizarre situation because this man was, yes, he was a known, in fact, a fairly well-known gang member from the South Bronx, but his crew has no business here, and he had no business here as far as we know with Carver houses. He came alone. He may have been staying overnight in the Carver houses with a friend or possibly a woman that he knew there. And his shooter, we don't even think that the shooter may have known his identity. It may have just been a one-off in terms of maybe is an argument that escalated. There were no words exchanged when the shooter stepped outside 50 East 102 and just shot this man. So something may have occurred before the victim exited 50 East 102. maybe just an argument inside of the building. It was it's very odd. We don't have a suspect yet, even though we have incredible footage. And the picture has been circulating online and elsewhere of the shooter. We have a great picture, but just no identity yet. So that investigation continues. And then on the 29th of January, a 17-year-old man was shot at 425 East 105th Street in the Wilson houses. He was part of a 4-man group that suspected in actually several shots fired jobs around the city that afternoon and early evening prior to this incident. So they were they're from sort of more central Harlem area, and they were coming around different parts of Manhattan, shooting up various areas, sort of settling scores, I guess. And this guy, they were looking for trouble, obviously, and this particular victim found it. He was shot possibly by friendly fire. As one of his crew may have shot him. We believe that the ballistics may prove that eventually, that's what occurred. And he met his demise right there on 105th Street. It's just a sad, they threw him in the car, they brought him to Harlem Hospital, put him in the lobby. Like if you've ever been to Harlem Hospital, I'm talking about that huge lobby before you hit that huge staircase. Like they literally just kind of brought him in like a sack of potatoes and left him there. And I'm sure that was devastating to them too, but it's just an awful thing to watch on video. He was clearly dead, and just this very sad situation. 17-year-old man met his demise on 105th Street on January 29th. Next category of major crime is rape. We had one. It was an ex-boyfriend who attempted to sexually assault his ex-girlfriend. Robberies, we had 15 versus 18. There were no official patterns. The majority were primarily strong arm robberies where somebody tries to wrestle a property away by force or uses force, like punching someone, strangling someone, knocking them to the ground to take property. 2 victims were delivery guys. 2 were bicycle riders who had their bikes ripped away from them. One was a taxi driver who was held up at knife point, or the person refused to pay the fare and threatened them at knife point. And another one was a 3-kid gang, a 3-kid group that robbed a 19-year-old of his sneakers. He actually they arranged to meet at 97th and Lex on Facebook Facebook Marketplace, and they stole the guy's sneakers. Now, the reason I'm going into depth in this case is because there's been a lot of media attention recently about youth crime and the fact that some of our suspects are extremely young. So the kid that we caught that night in the aftermath of this running away was 12 years old. And he was one of the suspects in this case, 12 years old. And it's not isolated, unfortunately. So I mention that because this year has also seen, and actually December and January have also seen crimes committed in the 23rd precinct, serious crimes by kids as young as 12 and 13. So we had 3 burglaries of a COVID testing site on the grounds of the Islamic Cultural Center at 1711 3rd Avenue. 3 times 12, 13, and 14-year-old. 3 kids, 12, 13, and 14-year-old, climbed the fence and broke into this site and took stuff. And the property they took was fairly serious. The COVID testing site has all sorts of equipment in there, and they took laptops and stuff like that. So we caught them each time because they were on video taking this stuff, but they're 12, 13, 14. So they just went back the next day and did it again. So also, and I'll mention it now while we're talking about youth crime. We had a GLA, a grand larceny of an auto, where 2 kids that the witness believed to be no more than 12 or 13 years old went to the parking lot near Metropolitan Hospital on First Avenue around 98th Street, and got into a car. And they keep the keys in the car over there. Don't tell anybody. But anyway, they went in, took the car, and attempted to drive it out. But there is a up and down gate at the entrance to that and the exit to that parking garage. And the attendant came over and they freaked and ran when the gate wouldn't open for them. They were extremely young. So this is a disturbing trend that we're reading about in the paper more and more often. And we're seeing it here in the 23rd precinct as well. Next category, felony assaults. We were down, we were up 32 versus 28. The majority, or I should say half of them were domestic violence, 16. 7 of them were fights that developed and somebody struck somebody else with an object, a bottle, broom, bleach, food tray, pipe, baseball bat, and 3 were shootings. In addition to the 2 homicides by firearms that I mentioned, there was also a 31-year-old male who was shot at 1760 Lexington Avenue on January 10th, around 10 p.m. And we believe that was narcotics related. Just while we're talking shootings, very quickly, on January 11th, we recovered 11 illegal guns from a storage facility at 111th Street and First Avenue. You know, if you know that storage facility, the people there were extremely responsible. And when they seized a vacant unit, that wasn't vacant, but someone who had not been paid, they're not had paid up for several months, and they finally went in there. They found these illegal guns, called us immediately, and we were able to process them, and over time, perhaps connect them to various crimes. Also, 4 guns have been taken off the street by our cops during routine patrol or crime reduction work out on the street. So I want to mention that also. 4 guns so far this year. Burglaries, we've had 13 versus 11 last year. The pause just went out. 7 of the 13 burglaries were construction vehicles or trailers. 4 were commercial, a couple of restaurants that were broken into, bricks through the window kind of thing. 1 was a church and 1 was domestic violence related. Grand larcenies, we were up slightly, 47 versus 44. The 2 overwhelming categories I want to talk about, one I mention all the time, which is unattended property. Please, let's get the word out, because that's the best way to stop that, to make people aware, especially when you're at work or at home. A lot of people have folks into the home, guests of family members. Maybe you throw a party, which happened and on 96th Street in January, where some guests went to town and just tore through people's clothes tore through people's jackets that were left in one room. But don't get comfortable at home. Home attendants, cleaning people, other workers that you have coming to your home. Don't leave your $17,000 earrings out on a pillow because you got them wet and now they're drying, and then you leave them there with the home attendant. Okay, it's just not a good idea, and that happened. So also at work, people get very comfortable. They sling their handbag over the back of their chair, and then they go downstairs to speak to a coworker. Boom, gone. Second category I really want to talk about. So 12 grand larcenies were unattended property. 12 were check washing. And this is something we saw pretty routinely several years back. And we worked very closely with the post office to change all the boxes. Well, when they couldn't break into the boxes and fish out checks, what they've done now is they've gotten their hands on the keys that go to those green boxes, which serve as temporary storage for large amounts of letters that are being transported on routes by our mail carriers. So they put bags of letters in there while they're completing their route as temporary storage. People now have stolen the keys, have reproduced the keys, have paid for the keys from unscrupulous mail carriers. So that is something that has happened. And 110th Street, the mailbox outside of the post office was hit recently. And so we saw 12 instances of check washing. Significant amounts of money were being stolen by people stealing those checks, cleaning them with acetone. It's like an alcohol-based liquid, and then writing in their own amounts and their own names. So we're working with the United States Postal Service to crack down on that, to investigate it, and to try to prevent the keys from being used by changing the locks and making sure they're not universal, because unfortunately, those are universal. Last category, GLA, we've had 12 vehicles stolen. 9 of them were cars, 3 of them were motorcycles. The cars were stolen from all over the precinct. There's not a specific geographical pattern. The 3 motorcycles, 2 were taken from 110th and 2nd Avenue over near Lehman Houses and the lot there, and 1 was taken from 108 in Madison. Lastly, I'll talk about the traffic collision report very, very quickly. Since it's early in the year, there's not that much to tell. We're down 1.6% in our collisions this year versus last year, so that is good because we were down last year as well. I'm sorry, we're down 4.2% in collisions this year versus last year. And last year we finished 1.6% down overall, 2022 versus 2021. So we continue the positive vibes there in our traffic collision report. The injuries also down this year so far, 4.5%. Pedestrian injuries down a great deal. We've had only 4 this year versus 9 in the same period last year. We had 1 fatality, however. That was a pedestrian crossing at 96th and 3rd Avenue. The pedestrian was crossing against the light in the evening after sunset and was struck and killed, unfortunately, by a passing motorist at 96th and 3rd. That's all I have. If the 25th precinct is on the line, we'd love to hear from them. If not, I'll take questions now if that's how Michelle and Jose would like to handle it.
I saw that Officer Powers is here, so I'd like her to give her report, and then we'll do questions together as we normally do, because a lot of the times the questions overlap.
Hello everyone. Before I start, I just want to introduce my new captain. He's a new commanding officer of the 25th precinct. He just wants to say a few words before I begin my stats.
I have to unmute him. Give me 1 second to actually access the panel. 1 second. He should be able to speak.
You got me?
Yes, Captain Raul, go ahead.
All right. I'm trying to fix my video here real quick. I'm sorry, bear with me. I don't know what I just did. Give me 1 second. So, let me see. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get my video up.
Of course.
All right, there we go. All right, how's everyone doing tonight? I just wanted to come on and introduce myself and my executive officer. I met a couple of people already, part of the community board. I'm very happy to be here. I look forward to working with the community board, and I see and hear a lot of good things, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Can you get your picture on so we can meet you?
I'm sorry?
Can you get your camera on so we can meet you?
Oh, it's not on? Sorry.
No, it's not on yet.
I'm trying to figure this out. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to work through some technical difficulties here.
It's okay. If you're unable to do that now, we'll do that later. Don't worry.
All right. Give me a second. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what I did here, but I'm sorry about that. Unfortunately,
No,
I
No
can't
worries,
see.
no worries. We're really happy to have you with us tonight. We're happy to have you with us in the neighborhood, and we look forward to work with. I was able to meet you yesterday at Kyoka's meet and greet. So, you know, it's great to be able to see you again, but we're definitely looking forward to working with you. And I'm sure you'll get to meet all of us as we go along.
Absolutely. I also have my executive officer here. I know we can't see him, but I wanted you guys to be able to see him too. His name is Captain Albo Rodriguez. He's my right-hand man here. So you'll definitely be seeing one of us, if not both of us, around the neighborhood, and we're trying to make as many meetings as possible. Unfortunately, tonight I'm double booked. So I'm gonna turn it over to Officer Powers and Officer Cosme. But again, feel free to reach out to me, and whatever I can do to help out the community board and the community itself, you know, I'm at everyone's disposal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Officer Powers.
Hello everyone. Hope everybody's doing good tonight. You
That's
can hear
good to
me?
see you. We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, hello, everyone. Okay, so here's the stats for the 25th precinct for the 28-day period. We have 0 murders. We have 0 rapes. Robberies are down 18% with only 18 compared to 22 last year in the 28-day period. Felonious assaults, we are down 29% with 17 compared to 24 in the 28-day period. We did have 1 shots fired job recently. This happened Monday, February 6th. It occurred in front of 107 East 126th Street. So far, we have no victims. Multiple witnesses stated that they saw a perpetrator, fire, 3 to 4 rounds in front of the building, and he ran inside of the building. We have no victims, and we did hospital canvases, and no one was hurt in the incident. The investigation is still ongoing, and everyone's still looking into it. We have burglaries. We have 9 compared to 10, which is down 10% in the 28-day period. Grand larcenies, we're down 37% with 23 compared to 37. Most of the grand larcenies, they occur in the stores. People, they come in stores and they take food and they walk out. A lot of it been happening in the supermarkets. We do have, extra police presence over there to combat it. We have a lot of them doing directives and going inside the stores and making sure things are okay. Grand larceny autos is down 50% with 2 compared to 4, which is, a huge difference. Most of the grand larcenies are still happening because of the delivery drivers such as, Uber Eats or, DoorDash, they leave their car keys inside the car and they go upstairs to whatever building or house it is to deliver the groceries and food. By the time they get back to the car, it's gone. So again, we urge everyone who's doing any type of delivery service or just even stepping out of their car to just take the keys out of the cars and, go upstairs. To go upstairs. Sorry. I know there's been a lot of media coverage as far as the school shootings. We do have extra cops inside the schools, to combat, the violence. Thankfully, we haven't been having any shootings in front of our school so far, but I know a lot of people, they were concerned about the last shooting that we had because there was a school in the corner. So we do have, extra cops for school presence. They'll be in during dismissal. They'll be in they'll be in back and forth throughout the day, but heavy during dismissal times when kids are out and roaming around. And just a quick few notes. Our next community council meeting is Wednesday, February 15th. It'll take place in the 25th precinct at 6 p.m. So this is another chance for whoever didn't meet our captain, they can come meet him there. And our next Saturday Night Lights is this Saturday, and it will take place at Bethel Gospel Academy, which is located at 2-26 East 120 Street. So if you have any children ages 11 to 18, you can just come in from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Just fill out an application with the YCOs and you can join. And that's all I have for today.
Thank you so much, Officer Powers. We have some questions. I see our newest member, Sage Mason. Sage, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, Officer Powers, for being here. I was curious about what something you just mentioned. You said there were no rapes and murders in the 25th precinct in the past 28 days, which is good news. I was wondering if you could compare those to numbers from last year. I think that was the only thing where we didn't get a comparison on.
Okay, I'm sorry. So for the 28-day period from last year, we had 1 murder, and last year we had 0 rapes in the 28-day period.
Okay. Thank you. And I just had a second question. You mentioned the 28-day period. First question, part of this sub question, is that referring to the past 28 days starting today, or is that referring to the month of January?
Well, this report is the CompStat report that we usually have. So it's from January 30th to February 5th.
Okay. So not
February,
28
so
days?
Sage, February 5th would be the last day of the 28-day period. And if you count back from there, 4 weeks. That's the period that we are referring to by the 28-day period.
Okay, thank you, Officer Gibbons. And I guess that was leading to my second question, which is, we did not have a Public Safety and Transportation Committee meeting last month. Did anything happen before then in the previous 28-day period? That is worth noting in the 25th precinct.
Well, those stats were, okay, so I would have to get stats on that one because, we usually just keep up with the current. So we only have the stats for like the current 28-day period.
Okay.
But I'll get you can leave me your contact information and I can like give you the stats for those.
Okay, thank you. I'll send you a private message.
There was one thing that I want to, that maybe while we're all here, we're talking about, there was one significant thing that occurred in both the 23rd and the 25th precinct and also downtown. There was a double homicide, well, not a double homicide. There was a suspect who killed 2 people. One was in Troy Cara, was that Mount Morris Park?
Yeah, that was in one of them was in Morris Park, yes.
Yeah. And then he had prior to that, he had killed someone downtown, slashing them in the neck in a random encounter outside of a bar down, I believe, in Chelsea. And then in the 23rd precinct during this rampage, and that he came to Teddy's on the 22nd of January, which is a bar.
Actually caught that person. Yeah,
and
they caught that person.
Yeah. And he came in there and smashed the place up with a baseball bat and assaulted 2 of the staff with the baseball bat and with his pit bulls. He was on an absolute tear and he was caught very soon after that and is facing charges in all 3 cases. So that was one significant thing that occurred prior to our last meeting.
Thank you for that information. Michelle, you also had a question?
I was going to ask exactly what Officer Gibbons gave that information on. I really wanted to know what happened with that. Since it was all over the papers and everything. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Michelle. Do we have any other questions for either Officer Gibbons, Officer Powers? All right, we're starting the month, the year nice and easy. Thank you both for being here. We always appreciate you taking the time to be here with us and give us these important reports that help us to see how the neighborhood is doing, particularly year to year. So we appreciate you in that sense always. We're going to now move on in informational updates. We should have Marco Perez Jr. Is Marco here from the DA's office?
Yes, I am. Hi, everybody.
There you are, Marco. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jose. Happy New Year to everyone. I know we didn't get to meet last month, so just want to wish everybody a great new year in 2023. I do have a couple of information that I would like to share with you all. First, I would like to mention the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg Jr., in conjunction with the Mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, has announced a partnership with local law enforcement and elected officials to combat the proliferation of illegal, unlicensed cannabis dispensaries across the borough of Manhattan. The Manhattan DA is partnering with the mayor in this collaborative enforcement effort to make sure that we protect New Yorkers that are fledgling legal cannabis industry, as well as health and well-being of consumers, specifically young New Yorkers that are at risk from the unregulated products. What the Manhattan District Attorney's Office did was send and mail letters to more than 400 known smoke shops in Manhattan, warning them of the potential for eviction proceedings for unlawful cannabis sales. Specifically, the letter informs commercial entities the office is prepared to use its civil authority under the Real Property Actions and Proceeding laws to require owners and landlords to commence eviction proceedings with commercial tenants who are engaging in illegal trade of selling cannabis to underage people, as well as in the overcoming weeks. The office will work with partners to determine the evidence that exists of unauthorized cannabis sales and other illegal activity. Other than that, I would like to talk about internship that we're having at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. We're having a high school summer internship. This happens every summer. It is newly open. We've opened our applications on January 30th, but people have until March 1st to submit their applications at 5 p.m. What the high school summer internship allows is for youth to pretty much engage in civic engagement, leadership workshops, and mentorship programs, as well as working at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, really exploring the different divisions and units and the opportunities, getting to know the Manhattan DA himself, as well as working on potential policies. All applicants must live or attend school in Manhattan and be current sophomore, juniors, or seniors. Other than that, the program for the summer 2023 will be from July 10th to August 25th. Again, the deadline for that is March 1st at 5 p.m. and I will make sure to put that in the chat. There was one more thing I wanted to definitely speak about in this meeting. I wanted to bring it back last month, but unfortunately we weren't able to meet. I wanted to talk about some shooting and homicide statistics we have in East Harlem. It was asked specifically if I could bring this data to this meeting. And I will go over just the shooting incidents and homicides within the 2-3 precinct, the 2-5 precinct, and Patrol Borough Manhattan North. Shooting incidents include people that have gotten struck by a bullet, but that doesn't mean they necessarily died by it. So within the 23 precinct, for homicides in 2022, we had 4. In 2028, we had 8 that came through our office. Shooting incidents in 2022, we had 19. In 2021, we had 34. In the 25th precinct, for homicides, we had in 2022, we had 9. In 2021, we had 16. For shooting incidents within the 2-5 precinct, in 2022, we had 31. In 2021, we had 27. For Patrol Borough Manhattan North, which includes a multitude of different precincts, not just with the 2-5 or the 2-3. For homicides in 2022, we had 43. In 2021, we had 67. For shooting incidents, we had in 2022, 168, and in 2021, 227. So our statistics did indicate within 2022, in terms of gun violence and specifically homicides and shooting incidents, they did go down in comparison to 2021. And I'm done with my report. So if there are any questions, comments, or concerns, I yield my time to the floor.
Kenneth?
Thank you, Jose. And thank you, Marco, for that presentation. I had a quick question. With respect to the unlicensed cannabis operations, is the DA's office considering any criminal penalties at this time, or is it just chiefly civil remedies or evictions and whatnot?
At that time, there is different things in the works. I don't have the specifics on it. I know that our office is going to be working closely with the sheriff's office because that's primarily their domain and their jurisdiction in terms of any actual consequences that may come through at the moment. But what I can do is take that back to my team and find out a deeper information and get back to you if you would like to give me your information in the chat.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
No problem.
Do we have any other questions? Marco, it's always a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you for the information. I'm sure that this, particularly the smoke shop and the cannabis, it definitely will be something that we'll be watching out for, because there are now that the licenses are being given, I'm sure that a lot of these smoke shops that are now considered illegal will have some consequences to them.
Yes. Thank you for having me here, Jose. Thank you to all in the community. In regards to the smoke shops, the Manhattan District Attorney is taking it very, very seriously. We understand that this is something now that's a part of our reality in society and a part of our communities, but most importantly, we have to make sure that it's happening within the legal parameters of the law, not only protecting people, but specifically protecting people who are younger. We want to make sure our younger generation doesn't get exposed to drugs illegally in any form or capacity. And we want to make sure that it's being regulated as correctly as possible.
Thank you, Marco. We're gonna move forward with our informational updates. Do we have Rafael here from DOT? Is anyone here from DOT?
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you.
Can you see me?
Uh,
Hey, if you don't see me, we have problems.
now I see you. There we are.
I want to be seen. I want to be heard.
Good. Go ahead.
How you doing, guy?
Good, Rafael. Good to see you.
Good to see you all too. I kind of don't have such a long presentation, but I just want to bring up some of the things that you mentioned in your agenda. And I
Okay.
kind of refresh your memory as to wanted to ask some question in regard to an update. Okay, so you have the 128th Street and 3rd Avenue. Is that something that you would be interested in listening to an update?
Sure, please.
Okay, I know that it's in your plate for a while. That, I was told, is on the planning. And the way I see it, it's going to be great. It's not going to happen right away, but it will be done in a way that the community will be benefiting. So that one is the one thing that you have in the agenda. The other one is the neighborhood loading zone. Is that something on your concern as well?
The neighborhood, I'm sorry, what?
The neighborhood loading zones?
Yes.
Yes,
So
yes,
so
we
we
do have that
received
there.
no,
Go ahead.
Right. I mean, the point is that I do not have any new things coming on. I'm just basically going over the things that you have mentioned as your concerns.
sure. So Rafael, we'll get to that definitely in the latter part of the meeting. And if members have any questions, because we shared the letter and the information and the actual sites as well previously. So hopefully if any committee members do have some points at a time, that'd be great for you to field them.
Oh, okay.
If
Excellent.
any.
So I'll wait until then.
Rafael, do we have any update on 117th Street between Pleasant and the mall?
Yes, that it's been working on as well. It's been considered, it's been studied, and it's kind of
Considered for what?
considered to make it whether it's going to be installed or not.
That's not what we were told here when we gave support for this project.
Right.
It was more of a condition of ours was to make sure that there was something permanent there, not asking for consideration. And the reason being, and why I bring it up, is because constantly we find vehicles parked there. I've spoken to the 2-5 and they've seen the same things as well. So the whole point of this was for pedestrians to walk there and to give them more space, but that is not what's happening all the time when vehicles are being parked there. According to the
117th Street.
presentation that you guys gave us,
Mhm.
there would be something installed that would be permanently dividing vehicles from pedestrians, which is also to keep them in terms of public safety, because people are walking very, very close to vehicles without a parking lane there. So it concerns me when I hear that it's taken into it's not a consideration. It's something that was agreed upon, that you guys presented us with a project, with a design.
I
Not,
think I
not
can,
a consideration.
right, Angelo, I think I used the wrong word. Instead of using consideration, it's on the planning. Is that kind of,
But do we have a timetable? Because, the way DOT is working, it's already installed there. So the problems are there.
right?
Do we know when they're going to install this roughly? Because it's already been there a few months.
Mhm.
And obviously we just want to make sure that the community stays safe, but that's particularly pedestrians in an area where there is a lot of car traffic. Everyone coming out of the mall comes from that street, and everyone that circles the mall goes through that street.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100%. It's been in planning. I'm unable to give you a timeline for it, but it is being studied and it's on the planning. And I can tell you that as soon as I know anything that can alleviate your concern, I will definitely reach out to you and let you know. But at this time, this and also including the traffic light at the other intersection is being discussed a high level, and that will be possibly determined. I mean, execution will be determined sometime in the near future. And as soon as I know it, I will let you know.
Beautiful. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. Mhm.
All right. I think with that, we finish our informational updates. We have a lot on our plate tonight, so we're going to go right into our presentation discussions. We have a request for letter of support for MTA proposal to adjust the M35 bus back to its M34 route, and also to travel to the Bronx and Queens subway stations for better Randall Island access. I believe we have someone here to present this.
Hello, yes, my name is Sean Hill, and
Sean, it is. How are you, Sean? Go
hi,
ahead.
just fine. So I'm coming from the Harlem Neighborhood Block Association, centered around 126th and Madison Avenue, and we actually are asking for a letter of support because of a number of findings that our neighbor Eva Chan has unearthed over the course of the last 6 months of surveying providers, businesses, and other entities on the island. We've learned, for example, that there are now approximately 4 million people that visit Randall's Island every year. That's an average of around 77,000 people on a given day. There are 1,600 people living in the shelters on Randall's and Ward's Island, and approximately the same number, about 1,600 people work there on a regular basis. We've also learned that because the M35 bus is so completely dysfunctional, there are currently at least 31 private shuttles that take either employees or attendees or clients to and from the island. 31 shuttle buses go to the island simply because of the dysfunctionality of the M35 bus. And our request for the community board and for your group is to request that the MTA consider reviving what was before the M35 bus, the M34 bus. For those of you who've been in the neighborhood for a while may remember that the M34 bus went from Manhattan to the island and then to Queens and then back. And we are actually requesting that the M35 bus route be revamped and visit both Queens and the Bronx and Manhattan. And one of the main reasons for that is simply economic. Right now, the providers on the island repeatedly voiced a problem that they're having in getting qualified staff to do the jobs that are required and that are open on the island. And they can't get qualified staff because it is almost a requirement for that staff member to have their own vehicle for transportation, simply because the M35 bus is so dysfunctional and they can't get there from Queens and they can't get there from the Bronx by public transit. So that's our request. We would like the M35 bus to do more than just shuttle back and forth. We'd like to return it to visiting Queens as well, the subway station, and the Bronx on the route. And we would like your support.
All right, Sean, thank you. Do we have questions for Sean? Michelle?
Hi, I was wondering if, thank you for your presentation for the second time. I was wondering if you had any information that you were able to gather on how well the ridership was previously on that route.
Very good question. We don't actually, the MTA does not have data going back that far. But one of the things that I can tell you is that the M35 bus right now is the lowest ridership bus in all of the borough of Manhattan. And it has precipitously dropped to an average of under 200 users per day. Now, I'm not naive, and I'm sure you're not as well, and we probably all realize that the M35 bus is basically a walk on the bus and walk off the bus model. I certainly have been on that bus when the collector just simply waved people on. So the numbers are skewed. I certainly acknowledge that, but currently the M35 bus is the least utilized bus in the entire borough. That's what I can tell you.
Michelle, were you good with your question, with the answer?
Yes.
Do we
And
have
I want a follow-up question.
Please, go ahead.
Have you, you said that you found out the amount of people that would be able to get jobs if the bus was back in service for those particular areas?
Yes.
You made a survey?
Yes, we asked anecdotally if people who ran the shelters and ran other programs on the island could tell us what was one of their most formidable stumbling blocks for their organization. And repeatedly they said, hiring people to work here. And when we drilled down further and asked them, why is it a problem getting people to work on Randall's Island? They repeatedly said the issue is transportation. We can't get staff from Queens. We can't get staff from Brooklyn. We can't get staff from the Bronx because they have to travel for such great distances to get to the M35. And then the M35 bus is such a disaster. So it's one of those things. It was said repeatedly, and I would say emphatically that hiring staff is a huge problem on that island because of the dysfunctionality of the M35 bus.
Michelle, you have a follow-up?
No, I just wanted to know if anyone else does not have any questions. I am. Oh no, I'm sorry. I see you're
Cindy
sending.
has a
So
question.
forget
So
that.
Cindy, go ahead, and then I'll double back to you, Michelle.
Thank you again for your presentation. I wanted to know if the data that you guys have accumulated could be shared with the committee, so we're better able to provide support and to have a better understanding as to the challenges of Ward's Island. As you know, this is an ongoing issue and one that we are all very passionate about. So any data that could be available and shared with the committee would be greatly appreciated.
Certainly. Sandy, that's an excellent question, and we will certainly do that. I will note that the data itself was compiled under an agreement for anonymity. So there is no identifying information about a particular entity on the island for that purpose. And I will also say that the numbers are low, the ones that I just put out there and the ones that we will share with you and the committee, simply because it has turned out to be almost impossible to get numbers from the fire department. So the fire department training facility out there has literally hundreds of firefighters coming to it on a given day, thousands perhaps even over the course of a very busy week for training, workshops, live action, role playing, etc. and we were not able to get that number, but we will get you what we can, as long as it doesn't go, inside the bounds of the confidentiality agreements. But yes, we can give you the overarching numbers, and we would be thrilled if you'd all take a look and help us pressure the MTA to reconsider the dysfunctionality of the M35. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Cindy. Michelle, going back to you, and then I have a question myself.
I had wanted to find out if we wanted to vote on this or make a motion on this. So I will go back to you since you wish to ask a question.
Yeah, I want a little bit of clarification. So the request is a letter of support. So are we asking to adjust the M? So just to make sure, right? Because we're talking about the M35 and a very, very old route of the M34. And we're asking the MTA to adjust the M35 for it to have stops in Bronx and in Queens. Do we have particular subway stations, or are these the most immediate ones? In the Bronx, are we talking about the 6th train, 138th Street? And my experience dealing with the MTA being more specific than less specific bears more results. So I was just curious. And in Queens, are we talking about Astoria right over? So that question is for you, Sean.
Yes, you're exactly correct. And I agree with you wholeheartedly that being as specific as possible is really super valuable. So yes, those two subway stations should be mentioned, and that is exactly what we would like to do. And I will just add one other thing, which is that we really need to support the people who are on the island, whether they're employees or whether they are residents. And the residents themselves have said to us that they cannot get to programs, whether they're job training programs, education programs, or whatever, in Queens, or visit their family or relatives in Queens or Brooklyn, simply because it's just such an onerous trek for them to engage. So yes, I would say the closest subway stops, as you said, Astoria, and also the 138th Street in the Bronx would be great to mention. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so now that that we heard the presentation again, and I believe this is the second time that he's presented in the last few months, because I believe he was here in December. I'd like to know if anyone has a motion for this particular letter of support. Michelle?
I would like to make a motion for this letter of support for the MTA proposal to adjust the M35 to 138th Street and Astoria, Queens, and also to travel to the different subway stations that I just mentioned, to Randall's Island exits.
So that the stop should include 3rd Avenue and 138th Street in the Bronx, and the stop of Astoria Boulevard in Queens.
Yes.
Beautiful. Okay, do I have a second on that?
Second by Dawn.
Perfect. All right, now that we have a second, I'd like to do a roll call so that we can have a vote. Khalid, if you may.
One second, members.
So while Khalid is doing that, Sage, since you're our newest member, just to let you know that in this committee, and I'll be reaching out to you after this, but in this committee, what we'd like to do is, particularly for anyone newer, but anyone in general, is that we will listen to something, we will digest it for a month, and then we vote on it the following month. That way it gives you time to kind of do your due diligence and anything else, any kind of research that needed to be done. We did this, I started doing this since I became chair, because when I joined the community board, I kept going to committee and it was just like, you want to vote on this? And it you know, it's kind of pressuring you into voting for things, and sometimes you may not have a full understanding of it. And sometimes, you know, things fall in the crack and things get voted on quickly. and the rest of the community doesn't have a moment to really understand what's going on. This way, everyone has 30 to 60 days to really understand. And if there's an issue behind it, they have the ability to confront us and come before us and give us their opinion. Khalid, are you ready?
Yes,
Perfect.
I'm ready.
Go ahead.
Jose Altamirano,
Yes.
Kenneth Crouch,
Yes, in support.
Carlos Diaz,
Yes.
Judith Ferraro is still absent. Osandi Garcia.
Judith is
Oh, no,
here.
Judith. Judith, can you confirm your attendance, please? And then confirm your vote if possible.
Yeah, she wasn't here for a
Judith,
roll call,
you're speaking, you're muted.
but I see her now. Judith, you're muted.
Okay.
Unmute. All right, let's get
You're
back
still
to her.
muted, Judith.
She'll figure it out eventually.
Yeah, we'll keep going. Okay. Right. Osandi Garcia.
Yes.
Osandi.
She said yes.
Thank you. Wanda Hopkins. Thank you. Marissa Mack is still absent. Sage Mason.
I'm going to abstain in light of what Jose just noted.
Khalid,
Understood.
I'm here now. It's Judith. I'm having a problem with my tablet.
Understood, Judith. Thank you. What would you like to vote, by the way, regarding the motion?
I approve.
Understood. Thank you. And Sage, you just voted abstain. Roberto Perez is also absent. Don Sanders.
Yes.
Michelle Wiltshire Clement.
Yes.
Motion passes, Chair.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Sean. All right, we're gonna move forward. Our next discussion is public safety concerns at 1841 Park Avenue. I believe we have Reynaldo Maristani with us, and this is the Association to Benefit Children.
Yes, can you all hear me?
We hear you loud and clear.
Thanks, Jose. Thanks everyone for having us. My name is Ronaldo Maristani. I work at Association to Benefit Children. My colleagues, Marie Nguyen is on the call, along with Francesca Barea. We had another parent from the school with us, but she had to head out for her granddaughter needed to use the computer for something, so she had to head out a little bit early. So it's just us three tonight.
That's more than enough. Go ahead.
Yeah, we'll try to be pretty quick. I'll introduce us, and then and yes, Eva, I can share my contact info in the chat once we're done. So yeah, I think what we'll do is I'll just introduce myself. I introduce ABC and what we're here to talk about today, and then I'm going to invite Francesca to share for a few minutes, and then we have a video. It's a 4-minute long video. I hope I can share that with you all. Ari Noguchi, my colleague, and my other colleague, Mary Ellen Rooney, couldn't make it tonight, but they wanted to be here, and they were sort of the area for sure was one of the kind of people spearheading our being here. So she has a message she'd like to share with you all, and then myself and Marie will close this out. So we'll try to be pretty quick. Just to kick us off, though, like you said, Jose, we're here to discuss or to request a letter of support from Community Ward 11, and specifically this committee, in our application to become a school zone at our site at 1841 Park Avenue, the corner of 126th Street and Park. For various reasons, we just think that this would be a helpful and at this point necessary feature for our school. We've had various public safety concerns and public health concerns, and we think that this would just be beneficial not just to the school, but to the community and to our neighbors. So I'm going to let Francesca kick us off with some of her experience at our school over the past several years, and then I'll play the quick video, and then Marie and I will wrap us up. So thanks again for having us.
I'm Francesca.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us here. I started going to Graham School in 2012 with one child. And now I am traveling to Graham School with 5 children. The ages are 10, 7, 5, 3, and that 18-month-old you see right there. I can say from my experience of traveling since 2012, the neighborhood is still kind of the same. It's just the people are more bolder nowadays. Like they will come up and they will approach you. They will say just things. And then my kids are witnessing stuff and seeing stuff, and they have all these questions that they ask because they see it around in their community. And we're asking for us, for our school to be considered a school zone, only because with us being a school zone, the smoking, like the stuff that's happening, because now across the street, we have On Point, which they help people, drug users, they help them in any way possible they could do. But however, it's affecting our side of the school because people will come over, they'll smoke around our children, around our school. They're shooting up sometimes around the Park Avenue. So it's just something where if our school safety zone is more, I feel, stricter rules where it's like, you're not allowed to do this because it's a school safety zone. And then it's just more protection for our children because our kids need to be protected at all costs, especially now with what's going on across the street within our neighborhood. And that's what I can really express as a parent. My emotions, I have anxiety, I get scared, I get nervous, and I'm just here looking for some help because I can just talk so much, but I know you all can make moves. So that's just my speech here. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Francesca.
Thank you, Francesca. I'm gonna quickly share the video that my colleagues left for us, and let me know if you have any issues seeing this. Can you all see this?
Yes.
Okay. Let me try this one more time to make sure you get the audio. Okay. All right, here we go.
Hi, I am Erin Noguchi. And I'm Mary Ellen Rooney. And we are with the Association to Benefit Children. We apologize that we're not with you in person at the Public Safety Committee meeting of the Community Board, but we're delighted that our colleagues and parents are there with you. And we thought we would record a little bit just so that we could provide a little introduction. So we are asking for the Public Safety Committee to provide us with a letter of support so that we can ask the city to be designated a school safety zone for the block that our center at 1841 Park Avenue is located. And in this building, we have an early childhood center, an after-school program, a children's mental health clinic. So we have over 500 children who come to the school, to the center, most of them daily and some of them weekly. And so this is our request.
Thank you again for providing this opportunity. Hopefully you're hearing directly from our parents who come down our streets daily, every single day. So some of the things I hope that they brought up are some of our challenges, whether it's loitering or garbage and litter that really mounds and piles up around the streets of our school. The human waste that is oftentimes not oftentimes, almost daily on the doors of our classrooms, which again, they're not opening doors into vestibules. These are the doors that are 3 inches thick that lead directly into where 1-year-olds and 2-year-olds are playing. You know, there's urine seeping through, there's feces on the door that we have to disinfect every single morning. The parking on the street, although it has enforcement signs, they are not being enforced. We have children who daily come to our school who have moderate to more severe special needs and vulnerabilities and medical fragilities that not often daily have to be taken off the bus, not just double parked, but triple parked. So we do have to get those children to their school safely. Some of the things that we're asking for is possibly, if we were a school zone, that we would have some type of official and enforceable presence in the community. We do feel supported in many ways, but with that official designation, maybe it will allow us to get on the radar for some things like crossing guards or signage, whether it's no smoking or drug use in a certain footage around our building. The parking zones would be enforced more readily. Community safety alerts. Right now, without that school designation, it's only because of the hard work that we've done to forge really great relationships with our local precinct, that it's definitely not a favor, but it's a courtesy that we do know what's happening in the community as it's happening. Just this week or earlier this week, there was a lockdown at the local public school, just a hop, skip, and a jump away. And we had no idea, but yet we saw the police mobilization on our block, and we had to go ask. And they did say, you know what, don't dismiss your children now. We would have known that if we had some type of, on some list that, hey, you gotta call ABC Echo Park just as much as you call the local public schools. And that's really important to us. You know, we do take pride in those relationships, but we want it to be that it's not a courtesy, that it's real and it's there immediate when we need it. Something simple as garbage bins on Park Avenue would be helpful for our community members that do live on the streets, who do have struggles, and we want to be able to respond in a compassionate way, where we know there might not be resources for them readily at all times of the day. So again, we're open to the conversation. We thank you for your time, and we're here just to restore our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So I hope you all were able to hear and see that video. Okay, thank you. So I'll just invite Marie, my colleague, to jump in, and I guess I can work with her to partner to close out our presentation today.
Yes, I think, again, thank you again. We are asking for the school zone designation just so that we believe this affords us access and resources that Mary Ellen and Ari mentioned, as well as Francesca. Protections of safety that include, signage, enforceable, parking zones so that the buses can safely embark and disembark at the curb to our school. The community safety alerts are really important to us, as Officer Powers has mentioned, that, it's important for us to know what's happening in the immediate area. And, we would like to we believe that being on that list of schools that we would be able to hear about those alerts, and then just having regular crossing guards available to our families, our kids during arrival and dismissal. And as we mentioned, having more access to garbage bins for the refuse and garbage that is piling up in the area around our school, because there actually is no garbage bins anymore. Garbage bins were once there, I believe, but no longer there. And so we just believe that that designation as a school zone could afford us these resources. Again, we're just open to the conversation. We don't know anything further than the experiences that we have in the community, and just invite you to ask questions or add comments at this time.
I just want to say one quick thing too, maybe before you're done or as you finish up, that in addition to requesting the city support us in this way by becoming a school zone, we're working with other community partners and our neighbors to do whatever we can to keep kids safe and to promote the healthiest and safest block that we can. This is just one of the ways that we're trying to do that. I see there's some people on this call that we've already spoken to and are working with, and we'll continue to work with. And so, yeah, we're looking to, this is one piece of the puzzle that we're trying to solve. So thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
I have one.
Michelle, then Carlos.
Yeah, could you tell me how many kids you have at the school
You mentioned 500, but how many on a daily basis?
Marie, you might be better.
Yeah,
at sharing that.
250.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Michelle?
Thank you for your presentation. I just wanted to find out, you said that there is signage for drop off currently for the buses that come with the students?
There is signage that says, I believe there's no standing, but it's not a designated school like 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. So people double park often.
Okay, and another question, you said that in order to get a school zone designation, would this also include like a speed bump so that it would be 15 miles per hour? Is that also what you're looking for?
You know, I to be honest, I didn't know that that's part of the package or suite. So I wonder if I can just not answer that question without learning more about the impact of traffic. But I do think that we just want the designation to help further the resources. So I'm unclear if the speed bump is required. Michelle, I'm sorry, I don't know how to answer your question.
The speed bump along with the 15 mile per hour slowdown.
I don't think, Michelle, that their issues are vehicular or speed. I think most of their issues are with the
The safety.
loitering and the environment currently that exists in that particular area. And I had a very similar question, but Michelle took both of them. You see, we think alike.
Right.
So, and I just wanted to clarify that. So that was one of the questions, because my understanding, and we're going to ask Rafael in a moment, is my understanding is a school zone, the main reason you get a school zone designation by the DOT is a reduced speed, right? It goes from the 25 miles an hour to either 20 or 15, and that is the main function of a school zone. Sometimes you get a speed camera, but are you, and I just want to clarify, I want to know, are you guys experiencing issues with vehicular problems like speed, or is it more the individuals and the loitering? Because that's what I know it exists there. So I'm curious so that we can help you.
Sure.
in this
I can
process.
answer, and Francesca, please chime in, as well as Ronaldo. But I don't believe that speeding is the primary issue that we're presenting. It's the loitering, the smoking,
Right.
the waste, and public safety alerts, crossing guards. You know, those are the issues that we feel are primary.
And also on that corner on 126, like there's traffic going so many ways. So sometimes like you have to like really stand back, because when the cars turn, they sometimes make a sharp turn as well. Not fast, but it's really close to the curve at times. Some of the
I mean,
cars.
one of the biggest problems there is that all left turns were removed on 125th Street and Park. So you can no longer turn left going west or east. You can only make a right turn. So anytime that you want to go down Park now, you go around, and 126th Street has kind of received that burden, because I know that area pretty well. But no, more to that than that, I just wanted to kind of understand exactly what your request is, because most of the time school zone designations are for speed. Rafael, and do you have an understanding, because you would be the person to explain to us exactly what the school zone is. Do you need a school zone designation to request a cross guard? How does that all come into effect?
But here you have to make a distinction of the nature of the request. If it is a safety issue, it has to be addressed differently than if it is transportation issue.
Right. But I
Um,
think doing it as a school zone is more of a transportation issue. And what they will do is they will put a speed bump and they will maybe put a speed camera, but I don't think that's the issue that you're facing, right? So we can do a little research with Rafael, because he is with DOT, he's our liaison, to make sure that the designation that you're looking for is the one that helps reflect the problems that you're facing there. Osendi, question?
Yes, thank you so much. Well, I have two questions. The first one is, first I wanted to thank you for taking the time to actually have this presentation and bring forth the concerns and the issues that have been echoed and shared with so many community members. One of my biggest concerns while I was hearing your presentation was that in case of an emergency or in case of a larger scale issue, that you were not included in the full blast contact information. Is there anyone that would be able to kind of point us in the direction of how we can get you on that list? And I'm a bit concerned considering that you're an HITE site and you provide services to so many people who are vulnerable, so many children who are already vulnerable, that you're not on this list. Has there been any efforts or any levels of communication since this happened? Ms. Wynn?
Go ahead, Ronaldo.
I think, yeah, Maria, I'd love for you to jump into. I really do wish Mary Ellen was here. She is the director of the Head Start and Early Head Start program at the center at 126 in Park. And so she would know better what like kind of follow-up she had with this kind of public safety authorities following that incident. I just want to reiterate too that what she said in the video, that we do have a pretty good relationship with the 25th precinct, and I think because of that, we are kept informed about things happening in the community. But you're right, we currently are not a part of a standardized kind of regular system or network that I think is notified when these things happen. But Marie, please.
Yeah, no, I was going to say we would love to hear and maybe seek guidance from this committee on how those alerts are or that alerts are disseminated to members of the community or providers in the community. We just know that when things happen, we hear it directly from the precinct, or a school in the neighborhood will tell us what happened, and then we'll get that information. And we just like to kind of be on whatever list that exists, and who maintains it includes us. And so we are just, again, this is so helpful. And I don't know if you have to educate your presenters on the designations that they're asking for, but that, I think that our concerns are not about speed or traffic, but more about safety. And, part of it though, too, Raphael, you could answer if there is a way for us to enforce that space that allows the buses to come up to the curb safely because of all the double parking that's happening. Would that be a transportation issue?
What happens is that DOT doesn't actually do enforcement.
Right.
So he wouldn't really be able to help you. Currently, you have a no standing 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then you have a no parking 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. for the whole stretch of where your school is, and going back. Enforcement is completely NYPD.
Gotcha.
So we would have to speak to Officer Powers, Officer Cosme, Commander Officer Maisonet to make sure that you receive the proper help there, because they would be the ones. I mean, we could add the school part there, but you have the right signage that should I mean, for more than enough, because you're there until 7 p.m. I don't know at what time you finish your schedule for the day, but you're basically covered from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. currently, from what I've seen there. So, I mean, I think it's something that we can definitely have a conversation with the 2-5 to make sure that, and honestly, it's something of people get familiar and they know they may not get a ticket, and as soon as they're comfortable with that, they continue to do it, and then once they get a ticket and they get a ticket once or twice, they end up not parking there for that particular reason. So we can definitely help you. And especially if you have a good relationship with the 2-5, you can also reach out directly. But we're here to give you all the support that we can give you. I'm going to do some research with Rafael, and I'll probably pass by your offices as well, because I do want to be able to help you in whatever you need help with. But I'm not sure if what you're requesting currently is what you really want, because what you're requesting now will be what will happen is they will slow down traffic there, but I'm not sure vehicular traffic is your main concern there. We have Xavier, our chair is here. Oh, and his hand's up. Xavier, go ahead.
I will defer till the committee members are done asking their question, then I'll weigh in. Okay.
Oh, sure. Yeah. All right, Michelle.
Hi, I'm trying to go on with the, you said that you had wanted also trash cans to be returned, and this committee is not connected with the Department of Sanitation, which is the Environmental Open Space, Parks and Open Space Committee. However, I am also on there, and we meet also once a month. So if it is on cleanliness, and I think it would behoove you to also attend that particular committee as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Can you repeat the name of that committee? You said it's environmental.
Environmental
and
Parks
open space.
and Open Space.
I just wanted to quickly respond to what Jose said too, and what we were talking about related to like the need for like basically transportation versus safety in terms of what our priorities are. I just want to reiterate, like, so I know like Mary Ellen has told me there is a safety. This isn't the primary issue, like Maria's saying, but it's relevant that there is like there's a safety concern when we need to double park and stuff there in front of the school, or people need to double park, buses need to double park, and we have to offload, or like, take kids off the bus and bring them inside. And sometimes there's the kids, she's told me, like, have special needs or other fragilities. And so it's important to just have that space, and that trash can sometimes pile up there and stuff. So I think the transportation piece impacts safety, but
no, I think it's all intertwined for sure. It's just that you currently have the right signage, and your buses shouldn't be double parking there. No one should be parking in your space. So we will be able to help you with that, because the first thing, if you didn't have the right signage, I'm looking at it on Google Maps actually, I would be like, yeah, we can work with Rafael and get you the sign that you need, but you actually are covered there 7 to 7, so, and now it's a matter of working with the 2-5, making sure that you have the enforcement to make sure that the neighborhood and the people that live nearby, the residents, understand that they can't park there, because what's happening is that they've gotten to a certain level of comfort. And that's probably what your issue is being. And now you're forced to double park. It's a very small street. So you double parking, you're basically stopping the street traffic from going. That's what's happening, I'm sure.
Yes.
So, Sage has a question, then we have Rafael, and then we have Xavier.
I have a comment, and maybe the presenters can respond to it. But I think this is really important. Like I was over on 125th Street and Park a week ago, and 2 people tried to sell me and my dad drugs. We were just walking down to Lexington. And I can't imagine what some of the families and the kids might have to go through just having to go into the school on 126th Street. But I think one complication that arises is that, and even if I agree with Jose that maybe you guys are asking for something more than what the school zone designation would provide to you, but even if it's just the transportation issue, this could be seen as something that would require more resources from the police department to enforce any transportation new rules that would accompany the school zone designation. And then it's sort of could be seen as a slippery slope, saying that any school, any charter school or non-public school could then ask to be designated a school zone, which would divert resources from public schools, which is already an issue. I think that's just something that might come up eventually and is kind of in the background of what we're discussing right now, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, that area definitely has its challenges. Thank you, Sage. Rafael?
So I have a question in regard to the signage in that area. You just mentioned that there is no parking sign, just no parking, or
On the north side, which is where the school is located,
right?
Of 126th and Park,
Mhm.
they have a no standing from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. and a no parking from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. So they should be technically covered from 7 to 7.
But when you say that they're theoretically covered from 7 to 7,
They have the signage there, so no
Right,
one
but-
should be parking or standing there. But apparently people are.
Okay. What about teachers? Have they have parking area? I'm not familiar with the area, so you have
Yeah,
to.
there's most of our teachers, we don't have it's not a school that has a parking lot. It's very busy, and so we just we're interested in covering the front of the building just to ensure that buses can come and disembark and embark safely. And are you thinking of having,
Is that something that you have requested in the past?
we've never requested a school zone in the past.
Teacher designated spaces around the school? I'm going to, Jose, I'm going to look into it. I have to learn a little bit more about the area, and then I will be able to then give you.
Yeah, but we're gonna do some research to see what's the best way to
Okay.
help the school, because
Okay.
obviously we are looking forward to helping you in any way possible.
The one thing that you said, Jose, is that the safety is very important, and enforcement is instrumental in alleviating the problem here.
Yeah, enforcement will be an issue because even, let's say it says bus loading zone. If people are parking there, really, I mean, right now they shouldn't be parking there as it is, right? The
Yes.
signage shouldn't allow them to park, but they're still doing it. So it doesn't matter what it says. If it's bus, if it's handicap, they're parking there. It becomes an enforcement issue because their signage is correct. The buses should be able to park there. So we will talk to the 2-5 to make sure that you have the support you need in regards to that. And I tell you that that's just something that will be a constant, until people get to the realization that you use it and they can't use it. Otherwise, you're blocking all the traffic on that street and it gets a little crazy. Xavier?
Evening, everyone. Thank you very much to the parents and administrators from ABC for being here in the space. I did attend a meeting where a little over a week ago, last Wednesday, our community affairs officers, Cosme and the Powers, were there. This was brought up as a potential solution, and at the time they were supportive of whatever we can do to collaborate with other agencies to ensure the safety and security of the parents and the children during pickup and drop off throughout the day. So that was raised. So I think we can take that. And if I'm hearing everything correctly, I'm hearing that we need to just know specifically how to craft support and taking that back, and so we can be more specific with a letter, because that's what the request is, a letter of support. The other component too is that having school, again, as we discussed earlier, Jose, and I appreciate you mentioning the change in enforced on 125th and Park. I mean, that's going to divert a lot of traffic to 126th, and it's going to create a bottleneck, which a school should not have to absorb. So I think that's something also too that influences part of this committee's deliberation, including but not limited to how a school crossing guard can help enforce and direct traffic and make sure people are clearing the box and moving forward, as we see in places such as 96th Street and Lexington Avenue. There's school crossing guards there, and the schools are over a block away in that instance. So I think that's definitely I think diving in a little bit deep into the issue, but also to the committee should discuss the merits and how this how do we improve the quality of life there. So that's I've been there to that site. You've driven it, I've driven it, parents who are here. So I think that's just leave it with you. Those are my comments in general. So thank you.
Thank you, Xavier. Yeah, I believe that we will be able to, I mean, I think you have a lot of different things that you want, and we'll help you to tackle them. I know that you can get a crossing guard without being a school zone. So we'll help you tackle that. Michelle has already mentioned garbage cans. We can work with Parks. Jessica Elliott, I believe, is the chair there, and she's lovely to work with. So I'm sure she can be helpful. Osendi, you had a question or comment?
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity again. I have a during the presentation, they mentioned that they would find, bodily fluids and whatnot at the doorway of their location. So I wanted to know if it would be possible for them to document it, and so that we are able to kind of have a better understanding as to where some of the challenges are, if it's specifically from a location that's providing other services to other members of the community, or if it's simply transient individuals who don't have access to a restroom, and that's the only location that they're able to use for privacy. Unfortunately, that's the reality of thousands of New Yorkers. So I wanted to ask if it's possible for them to document, so we are better able to understand where these challenges are, and how we can alleviate it, not only for the school, for this specific location, but also for the community.
So that's a really good question. I mean, a lot of it occurs in times that we're not there. And then we arrive in the morning and our staff are there to clean it up because we need to. So we can't unfortunately figure out who is doing this and where they are affiliated with. So, but we can document how many times it occurs, Ascendi, if that is helpful. And the frequency of which this occurs.
Absolutely, it would be extremely helpful. The city council has introduced legislation to provide restroom facilities to make them more accessible for New Yorkers. So actually seeing the impact of not having accessible restrooms specifically in our district would be able to help us facilitate, not only accessibility, but also cleaner facilities for yourself. So thank you so much for considering this and for the presentation.
Thank you, Sandy. So I'm also going to reach out to the 125th Street Task Force. There is a designated captain there that deals with 125th Street as well as 34th Street. One of those commanding officers used to come every month to our meeting. He introduced a new one. The new one's been a little busy, but we can also reach out to see if he can also help you with that parking enforcement because his officers are there consistently. We also have a great relationship with other organizations there. So we will definitely give you the help and support that we can give you and try to help as best possible. So thank you so much for coming. We appreciate the time you took to be here, and we'll be in touch. Xavier, you had something as we're wrapping up? I think we may have lost Xavier on a meeting.
No, I'm here. I'm here.
There you
What
go.
is the deadline for the application? Do you have a set deadline, or are you just trying to get this, collect all of the paperwork to submit?
We don't have a hard and fast deadline. Clearly, this has been so creative, informative to help us create an understanding of what, where the issues lie with the various committees and departments. So I do think that with your guidance, we can submit, a very, complete and comprehensive request. And so I do think that I think we leave here feeling that comfortable with knowing that we can access other resources that this committee suggests and will connect us to. And then, I think we might be able to take it from there. Francesca, Ronaldo, what do you think?
I'm not aware of a timeline either, but I know that this is very important to families and staff and all community members. So I know that there's urgency to it, but I don't think there's like a date that we have in mind right now to have the letter in hand.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll definitely be able to steer you in the right direction and get you the support you need. I'm not sure if you even may need the school safety designation, because as I researched the school safety designation, what it does is it reduces the speed. You get a speed bump, you reduce to 15 miles an hour.
Right. No, thank you.
But if we come to the conclusion that that's what you need, then we can help you there as well. But I think overall, your major concerns are others, and we can see how we can facilitate you with that, particularly unloading. That's a very vulnerable state when you have children, especially if they're double parked. And so we definitely, the closer they are to the curb, the safer it would be. And we're 100% with you on that. So we can definitely give you the support you need. Thank you. Rafael, you have something more?
I second that, Jose, but I think that they should be sitting down and define exactly what you want. This is the same.
I think they know exactly what they
They
want.
know?
They
Okay, I
just
think
thought
that
that the
then,
school
they-
zone would be what it was. I think they want a crossing guard. I think they want the buses to be as close to the curb as possible so they don't have to load in the middle of the street, which is dangerous if a bicycle, scooter, or anything else comes between. So I think what they know their needs. They just thought that this would be what would help them. But I think we have a better way to help them now that we understand. Because I had this conversation with Xavier earlier today, and I was like,
okay,
and I was a little confused myself. But now that having heard the conversation, I think we can definitely lead to that.
So
So
it's not
thank
a
you all for
DOT.
being here. We will be in touch. I will definitely be in touch, and we will do everything we can to help you. We appreciate your time.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna move forward now. Our next discussion, Rafael, don't go anywhere because you're next. We're gonna talk about our neighborhood loading zones. There was a community input deadline at the end of the month, but we should still see it since we couldn't have quorum last month. Do we have, Khalid, do we have anything for Rafael to show us in terms of the actual loading zones?
So in the email that I shared with the members, I forwarded the one correspondence letter that we received from Department of Transportation that also had the, I
Correct.
think 3 or 4 addresses. I it escapes me right now.
3 addresses.
3 addresses. Thank you, Raphael. And Angel and myself, we went over those locations via like Google Maps. The 2 of the locations, or at least one, is already near a supermarket that already has an offloading zone sign for the nearby supermarkets. Another one, right. The second location is like in the middle of the block, but it's already
Not Sunday.
but it's right. It's already a truck loading or a no standing zone. So it being an offloading zone or unloading zone makes sense already. There is a third location that is on a narrow street and it's near an intersection. So we were hoping that the members might take a look at those addresses. If they had any concerns or recommendations or anything of that nature, they could bring it up with Raphael, or if Raphael had any further information, please feel free to share that. And additionally, DOT's website, when you submit a letter to, whichever borough commissioner, you have the option to recommend neighborhood loading zones. So wanted to make the committee members aware of that.
Correct. And you feel free to do so. I think we welcome the opportunity to provide those to you if it is possible. And as far as those address that you just mentioned, that is already have one, I think you deserve more.
So for the committee to know, we have, we're speaking about in 106th Street between 2nd and 3rd, 100th Street between 1st and 2nd, and 101st between 1st and 2nd. Does anyone in the committee have a question regarding these loading zones? Rafael, you have a question?
Mike, I don't have any
Your
question.
hand
My
is up.
question would be based on your willingness to recommend other loading zones.
Okay, but let's hear from the committee first. Dawn?
Hi there. So, I kind of lost my train of thought just now, but I'm understanding. Have we discussed these loading zones before, or they're just are these ones that we discussed 2 meetings ago?
Exactly, yes. The same loading zones that we spoke about 2 meetings ago.
Okay.
I just before you continue, I just wanted to make clear that these loading zones are not designated for businesses per se, like supermarket and other store. This is just to according to the letter, this is under law. This loading zones is to provide that facility to delivery companies. So that has to be understood. Is that something that everyone understand, the definition of this neighborhood loading zone, that is not the one that it says commercial parking only?
Oh, so did they say how many parking spots get taken up by this in the last report?
I believe it's 2 per zone, so I believe it's 6 altogether.
2.5.
6 or okay. And this is just because we want to make sure people, so there's less parking, right? So that people use car service more, or what?
It's just to make sure that when FedEx, UPS, and other delivery company comes to your neighborhood, they will be able to park correctly and not make that particular road impossible by other vehicle behind it. It's just to alleviate the congestion problem that might exist. I'm sure that you have seen the FedEx or the UPS truck blocking the entire street and not allowing people behind to pass through. So this is the distinction between commercial only and neighborhood loading zone. it does, it does take away parking space, but it just provide that or enable the vehicular passage with no problem.
So this benefits FedEx or this benefits us? I'm
I'm
sorry,
sorry.
I don't
I'm sorry,
wanna-
everyone. No, it's okay, Don. So as I had said earlier, Angel and I had taken a look at these three locations. Two of them are already designated special zones. One location is already a no standing zone. And so for it to become a neighborhood loading zone already kind of made sense because it's already a no standing zone. I think because there is a facility located, I think maybe like a senior facility or some sorts like that. Another location is literally in front of a supermarket on an intersection. I don't know which location. That is already a no standing truck offloading zone. So there's no passenger parking there anyways. The third location, that one is a little bit more debatable because that is a neighborhood residential parking where installing a neighborhood loading zone would affect residents' ability to park there. So I just wanted to make that clear that two of them are already designated special parking sites.
Very well said. If you find with these three locations, I think that it's doable. If you're not, and you like to have more than these three locations, it's up to you.
Don, the advantage to these zones, even though some already exist, is that what happens is something similar to what's happening at the school, where when they're making deliveries in that neighborhood, which is for the residents of that neighborhood, these trucks don't have anywhere to park in those streets because there's no parking there. So what happens is that they leave their truck in the middle of the street, and if it takes them 15 minutes to walk up and down a building and deliver their packages, then that traffic will, on that block, will be held up for whatever as long as time as they're doing their deliveries. So the point of this is in order to kind of give these trucks a space to be able to make these kind of deliveries. And obviously this benefits the residents because all these deliveries are for the residents. It's just
So
that times have changed, right? Everyone is using now Amazon, online shopping. The amount of things that you are receiving in packages has increased an astronomical rate as compared to when you used to go to a store, buy it, and bring it in a bag.
Right, but when the bike lanes and bus lanes were put into our community, those took away the shoulder and all of the loading zones that we had and most of the half the parking. So this is a solution that makes up for poor transportation planning all this time that didn't take into effect that we would lose more parking for the sidewalk sheds, which I'm happy with sidewalk sheds and restaurants in the street. But basically they're saying that to make up for the poor transportation planning, they are going to impose these new things. I'm fine with the first two locations. I don't live at the third location, but I think the third location, they should find somewhere else that doesn't further inconvenience the residents. But thanks for the information. I do appreciate the explanation. I understand now.
Anytime. Michelle?
Hi, I'm looking at this letter and I just want to read this one line because it's three that are proposed. However, on this one line, it says the DOT is required to create at least 5 loading zones annually in each neighborhood tabulation area that meets the methodology provided that no fewer than 500 new loading zones are created citywide annually this year and the next 2 years. So, right, we have in the back of this letter, it says for 3 loading zones. Is there some sort of Is 5 going to be the actual total for this year? So if we agree for three of these zones, then is it going to be 2 added also onto these? I'm wondering, we have a finite amount of parking, as Don had so elegantly said earlier. Is it just going to keep multiplying these types of loading zones, as well as are these loading zones for a particular time period, or is this a 24-hour thing? In other words, on 106th Street, which is a residential space, would it be for only loading?
Michelle,
and
just in
unloading?
case the following sentence also states that providing that no fewer than 500 new loading zones are created citywide annually over the next 2 years. So, I mean, it's definitely a concern, because I have the same concern after reading it. Rafael, where does DOT stand in regards to this? Because we're adding 3. Is this something that will continue to expand? Or is this what we get in our neighborhood, unless we request it, obviously?
I think that it's based on your request, simultaneously understanding that this is mandated by law. If you see the first sentence in the letter,
yeah,
it references
the law. Yes.
response to
So
local
our
laws to create.
question is, by having these 3, we are now complying with the law.
Yes. Yes. Given that you also have the opportunity to request more location. And
Right.
according to the
But
law.
that's at our discretion.
Well, it's a very fine line, because DOT is mandated by the law, and DOT has to provide that according to the letter of the law. And it's just kind of, in my opinion, unfair to you, because it doesn't give you the necessary mandate to do what you like to do in your community. But it still is the law, and DOT has to abide by it through the years. As it is right now, I think that those 3 recommended are the 3 that you like. DOT will proceed.
Michelle, does that answer your question? Michelle, do you hear me?
Oh, I didn't realize I was muted. I'm at home, so I have to
Did I
have my
help
camera
you?
off. I'll disconnect. I apologize.
No
So
worries.
the one on the East 106th Street, would that be for if that is changed into a loading zone, would that be something that would be 24 hours, or would people be able to park overnight?
I'm not 100% sure, but I can look into it. And you have a great point, because if it is 24 hours, you will have an opportunity to suggest to change it, and signage will be implemented in that particular spot. So if I tell you that I know, I'm sorry, I'm unable to tell you whether it is 24 hours or some kind of time range from one to another. But I will look into it, and I will have that for Jose sooner than later.
I appreciate it, because it would lessen the sting for individuals that need overnight parking.
I agree with you. I think, I agree with you 100%. I think that would be, and that question, I had not looked into it. I'm sorry for that, but I will certainly look into it as far as if it is 24 hours, let's make a request to make it from, let's say, 7 o'clock to what, 6 o'clock, or 7 to 7.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for Rafael? All right, so then thank you, Rafael. We're going to move forward. All right, we are now going into old business. We have 3 street co-namings that we
Wait,
will.
Jose,
Yes,
we have
you're right.
representatives from the New
I
York
forgot,
Civil
Khalid.
Liberties.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Where is she?
I think that's me.
Drea.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm
Perfect.
actually filling in for one of my colleagues, and I also have to have my camera off. I'm sorry about that. Taking my dog out as I'm kind of talking here. Thanks for having us. My name is Drea, and I'm here on behalf of the New York Civil Liberties Union, also known as the NYCLU. And I'm here to talk about a specific unit of the NYPD, which we feel is detriment to public safety, called the SRG unit, or the NYPD's Strategic Response Group. We want to bring you some information tonight because recently the NYPD has announced that SRG would be deployed to 20 high crime precincts across New York City, including precincts in this community board district. And we want to make sure communities where the SRG is being deployed are informed about the history and function of this unit as it's being deployed into your neighborhoods. The SRG was created in 2015 under the guise of being a counterterrorism unit, but the unit has and continues to primarily be deployed to policing protests across New York City. So this specific unit of the NYPD functions as a militarized, overfunded unit that can be deployed where the NYPD sees fit without any oversight. Within 1 year of its inception, the SRG's budget grew from 13 million to 90 million. So just some background, in 2021, the NYCLU, along with 50 organizations across the state, launched a campaign to disband this unit due to its violence, misconduct, and long history of racial bias. This specific unit has disproportionately high rates of misconduct complaints and racial bias claims. For example, in June of 2020 alone, the SRG was responsible for trapping, beating, and arresting 263 protesters, medics, and legal observers in Mott Haven. The SRG is also trained to target racial justice protesters, which are often people of color. In their training manual, they have examples of violent units. Their examples of violent units include Black Lives Matter and anti-Trump demonstrators specifically, of complaints against SRG officers that included race between 2015 and 2020. 91% of the complainants were people of color. So lots of racial bias. This is so deeply concerning to community members across the city that the city council has actually scheduled an oversight hearing on the SRG unit. So we just wanted to let you know there's an oversight hearing scheduled for January 20. Well, it was scheduled for January 23rd, but it's been rescheduled to March 1st due to the NYPD's refusal to testify. More than 15 city council members have signed on to a public letter calling for the disbanding of the SRG unit. Again, this is a specific unit of the NYPD that's like relatively new. And so if the board would be interested, the NYCLU would love to work with you on a resolution of support to keep the unit out of our communities, or at the very least, the NYCLU could share Know Your Rights and public education materials to make sure community members are informed about what this unit is and that they'll be coming into their neighborhoods. So that's kind of the gist of everything. I might not be able to answer any questions about this, only because I'm actually not the one. Isabel Leyva, who was supposed to be here, is the one who actually leads the campaign and has done a lot of research and monitoring of the SRG. And so I can drop her contact in the chat. But if you all would like to get involved in the campaign or participate in the city council hearing, or testify at the March 1st hearing, you can sign up through a link I'll put in the chat. Yeah, I think like if you have any questions, it's probably best to reach out to Isabel directly. Uh, but yeah, we just wanted to let folks know about that.
All right, Drea, thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the information. And we will follow up. You said you will be putting the information on the chat, so we'll be able to get it from there. And I believe I already have her email. Perfect, Isabel Lega. Okay. So since she can't take any questions, then we will move forward. Thank you for that, Drea, presentation. Our next, now we're going to old business. We have 3 street co-namings to do tonight. I have gotten pushback from City Council in regards to one of them, but we'll do them one at a time, and I will reach out to. We had some pushback saying that Gerard GX Carterway has some issues, so we may table that for the time being, and I will speak to. I believe it's a sister that presented it, so that we can sort that out. But for now, we can vote on, because if City Council does not approve it, then it goes nowhere. So we're trying to just kind of find a better resolution, make sure that we have the right understanding. We can vote on the other 2 moving forward, and then we'll move on to new business. First one is Herbert Chuck Griffin Way. This was presented, all 3 actually were presented back in December. And this was emailed to you. The packages were emailed as well. So if we have a motion of support or in any other capacity, now would be the time. Michelle, go ahead.
Do we have any representatives from any of these
We
people
may
that?
not, because for the most part, I believe I know Candy's here for Angel Colon.
And I'm here for Gerard, but you said it's tabled, so I'm just waiting to speak to you.
Yeah, I will reach out to you. I'll give you my information, because I don't know if we have anyone here for Herbert Chuck Griffin.
Herbert Chuck Griffin?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
There you are.
Ed Davila.
So if we have any questions for Mr. Davila in regards to this, or if you're ready to do a motion.
I wanted to just to give them an opportunity if they wanted to say something.
Well, the only thing is, when I submitted it to Khalid, I wrote him that it should say Coach Herbert Chuck Griffin Way.
Okay.
Coach Herbert Chuck Griffin Way. That's the only thing I wanted to make sure.
That's important.
Yeah, because he was a coach, a famous coach.
Hi, Ed. I will make sure that that's edited for the record, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, I also want to let you guys know I'm Antonio Rivera, and I'm supporting Angel Colon.
Thank you. Well, when we get to him, okay?
It's okay. Thank you.
We're now doing Herbert Chuck. Is there anyone in the committee that will put a motion in?
Jose?
Who's speaking?
Could we just
Dawn?
have could you just give us the quickest recap on Coach? Because I believe I know who that is, but I just want to make sure I know.
Yes.
I think that we had a really good presentation, but I might be confusing 2 street namings, and I just don't want to do that.
Yeah, I think you
Sounds
do
good.
recall.
He's here, so let him. He can give you a good recap. Go ahead.
I think you may recall Chuck Griffin is an institution in the East Harlem community. He started the Voices of East Harlem singing group, the Chargers football team. He had a community center on 115th and 2nd Avenue. He placed over 40 children in boarding schools, elite boarding schools in the Northeast seaboard. Hundreds of us went to colleges. There are a couple of books written about Chuck. One's called Chasing America. The other one's called Passages. Also, Chuck wrote a play called Bullpen, where Denzel Washington and other actors, when they were teenagers, participated and got their start in acting, along with Bruce Willis. Do you recall now?
He also started the what would become the East Harlem Federation Youth Association.
Correct.
Yes, I put a note in the chat. It all came back to me, and I'm just so glad that this is coming before us again. And if my phone dies, my vote is yes. I apologize.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, so then, now that have we that recap, if we could have a motion on this. Michelle?
I would like to motion to finalize the Coach Herbert Chuck Griffin Way Street co-naming.
Do we have a second? I have a few, it's hard for me to see who, Ascendi.
Yes.
Ascendi, is that a second?
Yes, that's the second.
Thank you. Khalid, could we do a roll
Will
call?
do. Give me 1 second. Okay, members. Jose Altamirano,
Yes.
Kenneth Crouch,
Yes.
Carlos Diaz,
Yes.
Judith Ferraro, Judith,
Was that me?
yes, Judith, your vote is up next.
Okay, approved.
Thank you. Osendi Garcia,
Yes.
thank you. Wanda Hopkins,
Yes.
Marissa Mack is still absent. Mason, Sage Mason,
I'm gonna abstain.
thank you. Roberto Perez is absent. I think so. Yes. Don Sanders,
Unequivocally, absolutely, 100% all in. Yes.
thank you. Michelle Wiltshire Clement,
Absolutely.
understood. The motion passes, Chair.
Thank you all
thank
so
you.
very much.
All right, I will speak to Ms. Bernadette Carter, and we will move on to the vote for Angel Luis Colonway. Candy, I'm sorry I couldn't pick up. I was in a meeting earlier, but since you're here, you could give us a recap as well.
Hi, good evening, everyone, and thank you for this moment. Angel Cologne was the founder of the 116th Street Block Association, which is a non-for-profit community-based organization in East Harlem. He started out with assisting, taking back, actually assisting the residents of the community to take back pride and ownership of the way landlords were abandoning their apartments and giving them substandard living, as well as having bank disinvestments. He helped out a lot of the youth in the community that were going to college to help them out of pocket from his own money to be able to defray the cost, whether it was with tuition or with their college books that was needed. And he also helped out a lot of people financially. More importantly, he was basically more more engaged in making sure that the organization helped out with housing issues and socioeconomic needs for the people and the residents of the community, which at the end of the day, we winded up doing citywide. At the same time, Angel has supported in doing affordable housing and making sure that the residents of East Harlem live there. There was more than 50% of the residents and still currently live in East Harlem. And it has been kept at a reasonably low income, affordable housing. He has also been a former member of the community board, which he was also instrumental in bringing the community board at the time into 115th Street, where we're now still located. And we was, the community board was supposed to come back when we did Cologne Plaza, where we named the building after his name. And he has also been a former chair of Community Board 11. He was a very active Community Board 11 member. He's a former veteran. And what else I can say? Angel was a very human person. He was very more about helping people and making sure that he was instrumental in any type of way that he could be helpful to help anyone in any type of capacity that he could, and anyone that would approach him to seek assistance. I don't know if anyone still here, and I know everyone is new, mostly the people on the community board, but Angel always liked to be doing things on the sideline. He never bragged about what he did for anyone, or never wanted to actually take credit and boost about it. Angel always liked to work on the sidelines, and he was an unsung hero that people should know about, the stuff that he's done and how he was a life changer for other people. So I think that Angel merits the fact to be recognized. He had passed away on December 8th of 2020, and he had Parkinson's, and he felt proud to say that even though he had Parkinson's didn't have him. And he made sure he lived long enough to really, he didn't let the illness get to him. And unfortunately, he did get to pass, and I really wanted to see this happen before he did pass away. But I hope that today you can consider in supporting the reason why we would like to name Angel Colon Way in his honor on 116th Street in Madison. And if any of my members that are here from the 116 Block Association, I know Tony, as the president of the organization, is here. I don't know if he would like to say a few words.
Well, I just wanted to add, and you did that so eloquently, Candy, and I thank you for that. I just wanted to add that Angel also was a Vietnam veteran, and that he started an organization called the New Era Veterans. And I believe the site that he helped get is still on 119th Street in Madison Avenue. Very few people know about that. And like Candy said, he was very instrumental in helping many. He certainly helped me in my career, and from an assistant commissioner at HPD to the assistant commissioner of DHCR, which is now HCR. He was very helpful in providing the support that I needed to accomplish those things in life.
Chairman, let me just also add that.
Hi, Charlie. I knew, Charlie, you were going to talk. Go ahead. You're on that board too.
I knew Angel for many, many years. I sat on a planning board with Angel over 20 years ago, and he was only a community activist, but he was always someone who would always give back to the community. And one of the reasons why they named Cologne Plaza after him was because he was such a generous man. And if I'm not mistaken, his wife still lives in East Harlem and has a few kids. And I just want to make sure that, someone like this should be recognized. I know that some of our members on the planning board are very new, but he's an old individual who gave back to this community, and I'm in tremendous support of Henry Colon.
Well, then, Charlie, I can give you the honor of doing a motion then.
Chairman, I would make the motion, but I sit on the board of the 160 Block
Oh, so then you
Association.
will have to, very well, then I would need a motion. I'm not sure if this is a conflict of interest, though. There's no monetary.
If it's not, I make a motion to name the street after Henry Rios Colon Way at Kenny 116th Street.
Yes, 116th Street, Madison Avenue.
So Chair, I make the motion.
And since Judith is raising her hand, is that a second street co-naming, Judith? We'll have to put this down in the minutes because we've never seen that before. I can't hear you, Judith. You're muted. But Judith has a history of being against street co-naming, so
I know, but I know the person.
okay. Well, then, after hearing everything else, we have a motion. Judith has seconded the motion, and we will go for a roll call, please.
Okay, members. Jose Altamirano,
Yes.
Kenneth Crouch,
Yes.
Carlos Diaz,
Yes.
Judith, Judith,
Oh, okay, yes.
Osendi Garcia,
Yes.
Wanda Hopkins,
Yes.
Marissa Mack is still absent, Sage Mason,
I abstain just as a formality, but I hope it passes.
understood. Roberto Perez is still absent. Don Sanders,
Yes, yes.
thank you. Michelle Wiltshire Clement,
Yes.
thank you. The motion passes, Chair.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Bernadette, I will give you a call as soon as our meeting is over.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
We're moving on now to new business. Finalize list of requests to respond to in statement on preliminary budget. And B is reach consensus, providing public testimony at city council hearings on preliminary budgets. Khalid, is there a deadline that we need to adhere to by this?
In speaking to Angel, he would prefer that the committees would finalize any responses or feedback or input from the register that we received by the end of your committee meeting. I thought that you maybe have some leeway in submitting comments up until at least our district needs and budget committee meeting for this month. But I believe Angel had expressed to me that, that just offers, too much comfortability, too much leeway for members, and ultimately nobody submits anything. So ideally, we would have hoped to receive some kind of finalized committee statement or position by the end of the committee meeting, but also not having anything, not having any contest, not having any recommendation or statement is also okay to note for the record, just FYI.
All right, going through the budget register, housing, the ones that apply to us. This is a response to their response. Is that correct?
I was muted. Yes, that's correct. Yes.
And Michelle sits on district needs. So if you could please feel free to elaborate and actually lead on this, Michelle, I'd be.
Yes, on page 6 is, I think where our first one is, where the response to the renovate or upgrade existing precinct housing. The response that we got was NYPD's funding constraints project capacity and department priorities rule out, including this project at this time. I mean, they just completely just said no.
Okay.
However, we can choose to keep that in, saying that we want to upgrade the existing precinct houses. That could be our choice.
So here the decision we're making is whether we choose to leave it in or to remove it.
Correct.
Is anyone else?
Didn't we say, this is Dawn, I can't raise my hand. I'm
No, go
on
ahead.
like didn't we say that even the things that we know they're gonna say no to, we want to make sure they understand our priorities? So even if they say no, we want to leave it in. Was that part of our discussion or no?
It was, and usually they say no to us for many, many years, and then eventually they say yes. But it is a process. Like, it's not, you've been on this board, you know, and those have been on this board for a long time know that this budget requests and these capital projects are sometimes they are there for significant amount of time until they see that they have the capacity or the need or the funding for it. So just because they say no doesn't necessarily mean we have to remove it. We could also, Michelle, do you want to go through a few more to see if
That was the one that I thought was the most egregious. That their response, other responses have just been like, well, you know, there's
we'll evaluate?
funding, however, you know, it's already there, it's funded by something else. I'm trying to look for it right now.
On page 12, we asked for approved parking operations, funding to study the feasibility, establishing a residential parking permit program in East Harlem. And the response was further study by the agency and this request is needed. So,
Right.
okay, well, that's not a negative.
It's not a negative, but
They
it
want to
was,
study it, so that's fine.
they said it was like more like, okay, you know, we want to study it again.
Mhm.
Where we're like, we're okay, fine. And then on page 17.
But why
This
is
is the
that
one that I was
priority?
referring to.
I'm not sure. The priorities do factor into this, right, Khalid? Why was the other one so high? Oh no, okay, it's a different priority. That was a capital priority. Now I'm in an expense priority.
Yes,
Okay.
there are capital and
Right.
yes, Jose.
Okay, perfect.
So
So
in
in
the number 12, which is the expense budget priorities, which is number 32 on the list, provide resources to train officers in community policing, which is, I think, extremely important. The agency will try to accommodate this issue within existing resources, which I consider that a yes, but.
right. The same thing was for our request on, we requested for them to expand on the program that they built this year, which was NYPD youth program. That was priority 15. This agency will try to accommodate the issue within existing resources. So, I mean, I'm not sure if any of our priorities have changed, so I'm not sure what our response should be to this.
I mean, we could have it where we want to emphatically keep what we have as is, or to formulate new language so that it gets looked at again in a different fashion, or make it more specific.
Is there any one of them in particular that we would we look? I know you guys went more into detail at the meeting. Let's see, sanitation. Agency provide, yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. They're not saying no either. We'll try to accommodate this issue within existing resources.
If they said no, that would be easier for us to, you know, have a different response. But when they just have this wishy-washy sort
Right.
of response, it's very politically done.
Wow. Welcome to New York City. Fiscal year preliminary budget register. Khalid, any suggestions, concerns, questions? See if you can help us in this particular.
Not necessarily for me. I mean, in terms of like your response, it can be, points in terms of, well, we strongly believe as a committee that this issue does deserve some attention, and that can be, fiscal resources or extra manpower. You can have a simple statement stating that, the consistent response from OMB is, not satisfactory to our committee. We firmly believe that these are ventures that deserve to be looked at and funded and so forth. It could, you can have a simple statement as that. You can have a complex statement with further details and evidence supporting your requests. It's up to you as a committee how you wish to move forward.
All right, perfect. All right, so let's just do it one by one. Let's do an expense so we can get this through. We've brainstormed as it is. I am at priority 14, page 12 in the expense budget. Improve parking operations, provide funding to study a feasibility of establishing a residential parking permit program in East Harlem. I think that is something that is absolutely key to our neighborhood, particularly with upcoming congestion zones coming up. Our neighborhood will be becoming a place for people to come park their cars, go downtown to avoid paying that very expensive congestion zone, return back. So we currently their response is further study by the agency of this request is needed. Dawn, I know this is near and dear to you. So if you have any, our language could be a little more forceful, that this is definitely a key project that we are requesting for the residents of our community. I'm just brainstorming, so feel free to chip in.
This is Dawn. You need it right this second?
Yep, we have to have it.
Yes.
According to Khalid, we will be, this is just our response. And then we will go through the budget process again. So let's not, let's not overanalyze it. We just want to be able to give a response to their response.
Yeah, ideally, if you guys can come up together as a committee, and agree upon responses and positions, even if you don't write it down tonight, even if you agree on it on the record, I would appreciate that. And then we can, of course, put that into writing, hopefully, definitely before the district leads and budget committee for this month.
All right. Well, so then, like I said, let's do it one by one. Priority 14. I think our direction is definitely that this is extremely important to our community, to make sure that the parking in our community is for the residents and people in our community, not people that are being transient and moving on to the central district. If everyone's happy with that, or?
That sounds good to me. This is Dawn. I just also think that having transportation choice in transportation is important to quality of life. So we don't necessarily need others to decide whether, how we get around, whether we want to take a car or car service or a bike or, but I don't know how to say that as well as Jose just said it. But I think we need to keep that as a priority. It's
No,
that's the least we can do.
we're definitely keeping as a priority. It's just how we respond. Judith? No, Judith. Okay. All right, so that would be for 14. Let's keep going forward. 15, our request was increase resources for youth crime prevention programs. Youth crime is our #1 public safety issue in our community. Youth violence, it is our paramount public safety issue. Their response was the agency will try to accommodate this issue within existing resources. So our response could be that these programs have shown to cause a very positive reaction in the neighborhood, particularly the one we want, which is stationed at the certain tenement buildings. I believe it was just Carter that it was at. And these youth programs have made a big difference. As we know, the NYPD views the different sets in our neighborhood as gangs. So they view Jefferson as a gang, East River as a gang, Carter's a gang.
right.
So most of these issues are associated by where you live.
Okay, can I say something?
Go ahead.
I don't live in that area. So we have already had 3 cars with the windows broken out, 2 cars stolen that were parked by the park on Madison Avenue. So it's happening here. I mean, and that's not the only one. We just had another one yesterday where they blew out the window and they're trying to get anything that's left in the car. So, and parking diagonally by Marcus Carvey, there were like 2 robberies there of the cars.
Thank you, Judith. So, Michelle?
I would like to add to number 14 to because of congestion pricing that will be occurring.
Yep.
I want to make it more specific.
Okay, that's fine with me. We can add that too.
And with number 15 to add the example that you had just spoken about.
Okay. All right. Hold on for a second. Okay. No, you're welcome. All right, so we're gonna move on to the next one. We got 14, we got 15. This is not us, senior programs, not us. According to just self issues, not us, for high school student, nope. Case, nope, library hours, I don't think that's us. Remote
Page
vaccination.
17.
There we go.
32.
32. Provide resources to train officers in community policing. NYPD should allocate existing resources toward improving police community relations. Increasing accountability, communication, transparency by NYPD can help to foster trust among East Harlem residents. The response is the agency will try to accommodate this issue within existing resources. Honestly, I feel that we have great community policing here in East Harlem, mostly due to the activity that we have here from the community board, from the community, from the different organizations, neighborhood, basically everyone. We've always had these communications, so it's good, but it can always be better. So regards to this response, their response was they'll accommodate within existing resources. Our response can just be as simple as considering that that the public safety, our biggest issue here is youth violence, public safety, the natural distrust of the younger individuals when dealing with NYPD. So definitely this kind of training can improve community relations. I don't know if anyone, we're spitballing here, so anyone you want to add, feel free. Because so the reason we do this, and Sage, this is your first time, it's basically a back and forth between us and the city. We make requests, they give us answers, and then we follow up on those answers. So this is us kind of following up on those answers. A lot of the process is really them knowing that we're actively following up on them. And that bears a lot of importance, because then they know that we're active and they know we're not just sending this once a year. And they will pay more attention to the needs. And it does take time for a lot of these needs to go into effect, but definitely they do go into effect.
Thank you for explaining that, and I see the importance.
Anytime. So if everyone's, do we have any more besides that one? It's canine waste. One. Oh, I think that was our last one. Is everyone fine with that language? Again, we can always, but we are on a deadline here. We can't make Angel, Miss Kane upset at us. What's up, Charlie? Talk to me.
No, I didn't. That's great. I think what you said was good as I know. We really need that.
All right. Thank you for that. Michelle, go ahead.
Being that I'm the one who has to go report all this back to, I think that this is a good start.
All right, great. All right, then.
I do have a question, though.
Go ahead.
Number 38, is that connected with us in any way?
Let me go back. I just unclicked.
I will read it. Other community board facilities and staff requests provide funding for baseline increase the PS and OTPS.
I would think that comes from oversight.
Okay.
Oversight handles all staff facility requests, particularly when it comes to budget and such.
Just wanted to make sure on that one. That was my only. Okay.
Khalid could probably confirm, but it looks like an oversight for me.
Okay.
I think I'm on that committee. We just don't meet much. All right. We've made it to the end, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it all. Let me make sure we are not forgetting anything. Nope, we are not. It is 9:16. We will do a roll call to finish as per our rules. Is there any other announcements that we'd like to do? Announcements before roll call? Anyone have any announcements they'd like to make? No. All right. So they're ready to go. Sage,
I just like to say thank you for having me, and this is awesome. I look forward to working with everybody going forward.
We look forward to working with you, Sage. We like to see young people involved so we can make them do the work for us. Thank you. We look forward to making you work.
Cool.
All right, Khalid, if you can do the roll call.
You got it. Jose Altamirano.
Present.
Kenneth Crouch.
Present.
Carlos Diaz.
Present.
Judith.
Present.
Pass. Osendi Garcia. Thank you, Judith. Osendi Garcia. Thank you. Wanda Hopkins.
Present.
Thank you. Marissa Mack, still absent. Sage Mason.
Present.
Thank you. Roberto Perez, still absent. Don Sanders.
Yep, still here.
Thank you. And Michelle Wilshire Clement.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, and this meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you all for the time
night.
and the patience. Appreciate you all. Have a good night. Be safe.
Good night,
Good
everybody.
night, everyone.
Night.